I have taken this handle errors and moved it to a new file known as error handler, and it takes this function and returns an errors, and I have kept the errors to be an empty object, and then we are filling it over here or else over here as well, okay, as required. Chalo. So and it works as well. So if you can see, we only get a light error now and only required fields are there, so we get error that title is already taken. And if I go ahead and remove this, okay, and try and send it, yep, we do get all the required stuff over here. Chalo. Now this will be handling in the front end as soon as we move ahead with our routes and all that stuff, but for now let's just we created placeholder routes for user. What I would like to do is I would like to use this and start creating our users, okay. Chalo. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a user, right? So what I will do is, mm, well, basically we have to just copy and paste stuff from here, okay. Okay, chalo. So uh, you see, we have been doing this, but this is not an optimal way to do stuff because you always want to work around with this generally. So what I will do is I will try and show you guys a far more better way, and it is known as asynchronous or async await JavaScript, okay. And how we work with this, you see over here we use the .then method, right? So whenever you need this result, which is coming from save actually, and whenever we need this result, you will always have to call this, or whatever you want to do you will have to do it in here, okay. I have to start my OBS. So yeah, chalo, hopefully it is working. Well, now this is not a good way because you don't want to put everything over here, even though it may look optimal, and but generally what happens is the code gets trashed out and you don't get to use this again and again. Whatever you have to do, you have to do this over here, and then if you want to do something else further, you will have to use .then method again and again, not over here, but instead you will have to use the .then method over here, okay. So to prevent this, we have something known as async and await inside our asynchronous JavaScript. So what we can do is over here const uh, well, we can say const user equals to await, okay. So we need to wait for this, so we'll say user dot create, all right. So it will create a new user, and in here you need to pass in the required fields. So right now we will be getting all these fields from our request, okay. So I'll say request dot body, all right. If we have a user, then we can now use this freely as much as we want. So we'll say if user, we will say user response dot send, All right, we will say user. And else, uh, let's just try this for now. Yeah, let's hopefully it works for us. And what about the routes? Where are they? Yeah, the routes are over here. So we have a post and then slash, right? So we can say a post method of a slash, and let's try and send it. It is stuck right now, and if I go to control J, it says await is only valid in asynchronous function. So you have to create a asynchronous function and you have to say async. Okay, now for some reason it is here already, and I also don't know why, but it should not be here. Have I used it over here? Oh yeah, inside our blog details we have done this. Okay, chalo. So we can now save it and try and send this again, and it says cannot find module EJS. Hmm. I guess something broke my this. So what I will do is I will just do yarn. It should get installed very quickly. Yep, done. Let's try and save it again, and hopefully it works this time. Let's send it. Okay, it still says that can't find EJS. And where are we using it? B3 index.js. Oh yeah, this line. Okay. So we need to add it as well. So I will say yarn add EJS. Okay. This should do it. And let's just try and send it. Okay, so it says fail to look up view in views directory. Uh, we say okay. So the very reason it is doing that for us is so now we are getting a 404. That is why stuff is not working for us right now. So what we can do is let's just remove views from here, and over here also I guess we can remove this guy and try and send it again. Yeah, it says cannot post slash. Okay, all right. So what we'll do is let's just close down this, and inside our user routes, so in here, yeah, we have a sign up route. Okay, so what we will say is sign up and try and send it, and yeah, we are getting this error. So it says validation error. Okay, chalo. So uh, now that we are getting an error, we can try and do this. We can say else handle errors error. Okay, I guess we are supposed to use something like if error. All right, and yeah. Mm, hmm, hopefully now it works. Yes. No. Well, what do we get inside our user then? Let's try and send it. Mm, It should be in here. So it says unhandled promise. Okay, so you don't do it actually like this. So what you do is you need to put it inside a try and catch block. Hopefully that solves our problem now. Okay, and we can now say if there is a user, we can say response dot send. All right, we will say user. Okay, and we'll have our catch block. We will say catch. Okay, and then we can say error. And now we can say this dot send. All right, error. Nope. We can say directly handle errors and then pass in error over here. So it should work now. And if you try and send an user, yeah, it says password is required and email is required as well. Chalo. So that is how you use asynchronous JavaScript. Now, if you are going ahead and querying a server, you will be getting different types of data instead of just a user. We'll be looking at that with the React. But you see, right now I have taken user. We'll see it even with our front end as well, because when we will be getting our request and response object, we'll be working with that, and then I will be showing you how do we get errors in the front end. Okay, chalo. So this is one aspect handled of how do you work with asynchronous JavaScript. Okay, so we now what we want to do is, you see, whenever our passwords are being stored, okay, let's just create a user for ourselves. I will copy it from here. Okay, and uh yeah, now I can say test at that 123.com. All right, test 123, and on sending this, it should send us a user back. But you see, this is not a safe way to store the password. It should be encrypted, because even if your database gets hacked, the hacker should not know what the password is. All he should get is some random arbitrary text that he cannot decode, at least, but we can decode it easily. Okay, so what we can do is, either you can create a function over here that encrypts everything. Okay, so even before doing this, you can create some logic over here saying that uh, handle user object and handle password encryption. Okay, but still this process is a security risk for you, because anybody who has some kind of access to your database, or let's say that in future you go ahead and use this as a resolver, and the person has other intentions. He does not want the user resolver to encrypt the password, he just wants to send it. So instead of giving this entire block of code to someone, it will be far more easier if you could handle it inside your model itself. So you don't have to save this model. All you have to do is you have to send only this part of the block, and then the model takes care of everything. Now you can also send this model via CDN or anything, or via some other server that you would like to handle. That is how we approach stuff. It is far more better for security, because let's say you are working on something secret and you don't want your one team to know what is happening on the other end. At that point, we split up the code into multiple stuff. So instead of handling stuff over here, now let's just save it, we can handle it over here, and we will use something known as hooks to work with the same. Okay, all right. So what we can do is, we get this by default with our schema object by mongoose. Okay, so we have defined our user schema, and once it is defined, it has a lots of stuff in here. So if I go ahead and try console logging this, it should not work for us. Okay, so I don't think that this will even run because we are not calling this. But let's try and run it. Okay, so if I try and send this, it should, yeah, it says user schema is not a function. Yeah, you do get this, and but after this it should not run again. Yeah, you see it only gives this, and then it gives you an error. It's saying that the title is already taken. Oh yes. So we have this. All right. Mm, well, we need to do this. Okay, I will figure out a logic for the same, and then I will explain to you. But for now, assume that your title is email. Okay, and it says that title is already taken. Fine. Uh, Well, you see over here, we have stuff that we can work with inside our schema. So it gives us an object, email and password. Along with that, we have a path, email, and it has all this type of stuff. So if you go in here now, there are stuff that you use for validation. So we have enum values, regex, path, and all that stuff. All right, and it has is required. Now you can use this always to improve and validate your this. Like enum is used when you want to only save certain types of string, like in names of courses. In our college deco website, we have an enum saying that MBA and PDGM are the only two types of courses. There should be no other string that goes in here. Okay, and then we have is required that we are already using, is required is true. Okay, chalo, we will be looking about validators also, like how can you validate yourself, because right now in our email, no matter what you do, even if it is not a proper email, it will save it for you. You don't want that to happen. Okay, so what we can do is we can use something that can allow you to validate it. Okay, so either you can write a function yourself saying validate email, but you see that is why we have dependencies to ease your life. Okay, so right now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and install a dependency, and we'll use it to validate stuff. All right, so what we can do is yarn add. Okay, and in here I will say mm, the name of that is validator. So once it is installed, okay, now we will import some stuff from Validator for, so we'll say const, okay, is email equals to require validator. Okay, now we can use this use email is email to check if our email is right. So I will pass in validate over here. So we have validators. Mm, Now it is not present over here or something, but you can always go over here and say validate. All right, so don't worry about this dot validate for now. We will say validate is email. Okay, now you pass this function over here, and then just like over here we can say invalid email. All right, chalo. So there are other validators as well, like not just validators. Now you want to transform your email to lowercase, so you can say lowercase is true. Okay, And along with that, let's go ahead and validate our password as well. So I really don't want to do it right now because uh, we will have to use some kind of stuff. So not some kind of stuff. We will have to create a strong password for ourselves. Now I don't remember what are the, yeah. So we have validator, and let's just look at password. Yeah, you see a strong password, and then it sends us this. So yeah, we have our this. So we can say chalo. And then it also have this fine. Okay. So we have minimum length, minimum lowercase one, and all this. Now these are all the default options, and you guys can mingle around with them. But for now, I will just pass this in and say enter a stronger password. Okay. Chalo. Now there are other stuff as well, like that are not shown over here. Okay. Like yeah, there are no. Mhm. Yeah, we don't have all this. Remember this setters and getters, huh? They are very important as well. So I will add in one more over here. Now they are, it is not showing every one of those, but you can always use this. Okay, win length will be of 6 characters. Now our validator is requiring us 8 characters. All right, so I will say 8 over here. Enter longer password. Save this like this. Okay, chalo. So yeah, we need to get this guy from along with his email from validator. Okay, chalo, and stop. Let's just stop console logging this. All right, chalo. So let's talk about hooks. If you see in here only now we have hooks, and we have pre hooks and then post hooks as well. Pre by name, meaning that before, and post means after. So we need to call this hooks. All right, and they trigger every time anything is being saved to the db, and after it is saved to the db. All right, and you want to do this uh, just in case you want to validate your data and all that stuff. Instead of validating over here, you can also validate your data over here. Okay, but for now, let's just go ahead, and I will say user dot schema dot pre, and then over here we will say save. Okay, so before saving, okay, we'll call a function for ourselves, and we will say console log saved. Chalo. So now uh, obviously this also acts as a middleware, so we need to pass in our next function, and in here let's just pass in next. Okay, so hopefully every time before saving the user it should give us next. And right now if I don't enter a good password, okay, then it will give me an error. Okay, chalo. So mm, okay, so it returns an integer instead of boolean. Fine, so let's just try and send it. Yeah, it says enter longer password. So let's just increase the length of our password, and it says enter a stronger password. Okay, now I don't want to do this right now. That is because uh, I don't want to enter strong passwords over here and then forget them later on. So for now, what I will do is I will just backspace this guy out, and over here we will do this. Okay, chalo. So hopefully it works and it allows us to send this. Yeah, it says invalid email as well because our mail is invalid. Notice that it is not going to the pre-hook yet. Instead, it is first validating our data and then showing errors over there only. But as soon as our data becomes right now, then it should say that the email is valid. Yep. And yeah, it did console log saved for us, and then over here it also sent us the data. Chalo. All right. Now, uh, whenever you want to modify your object, so this object that we are sending in from here, you need to pass this in as well. And how we pass that is, you see, we have an object over here, okay, and you can always say obj, all right. And now if I try and console log obj for ourselves, okay, now and console log obj out, it should give us nothing. All right. So hmm, let's try and run it again. Okay, so it is something is happening over here and it is not supposed to happen. All right, so let's just try and send it. Hmm. Um, all right, so let's just try in doc. I do not expect it to run still. I guess we will have to use this over here right now. Yep. Doc is a function actually. So what does it do right now? I also don't understand. Okay, so doc is actually a function and it runs over here. Fine. Chalo. So instead of doing this now, we don't need this right now. Instead, I will show you what is happening over here. We can use this, okay, and try and send it. And okay, so this is also not working. Okay. Mm, okay. Yeah, the problem over here is we need to say function because this does not work with arrow functions. It is not like it does not work with arrow function. uh, this, it refers to the outer object of the world. So right now you see we are getting an object over here which is an empty object. That is because this is being picked up from the global context. That is why we are getting an empty object over here. But right now I have created it to a normal function, so it is no longer an arrow function. So it should give us our this user schema over here to work with. Let's just try it and we'll send it. Okay, yeah, you see in here we get our ID. Okay, so mongoose already generated an ID for you automatically over here, and then password and then email is also over here. Fine. Chalo. So whenever we want to save this, now the password is being saved like this, and you don't want to do that. Okay, what you want to do is instead of sending this password in, you want to encrypt the password. Chalo. So we can keep our this function for the over here at the very end, so that we are able to know that our password is being encrypted properly, and we will use bcrypt to encrypt our password. So Well, bcrypt is a way to encrypt your data. Okay, chalo. So uh, can I get a nice one? Yep, this part over here. Fine. So on zooming in, okay, let's see if it opens. Yeah. mm, okay, so this is from, yeah, now this is also a problem that I have myself. Okay, but just for your understanding, $2 and y, it stands for the algorithm. Okay, so the way that you encrypted your this. So we have methods to uh, work around this. Now you will have to read this document. Okay, so we have rounds as well to hash your this. Yeah, okay, they have given it over here by itself. So you see over here, this is the algorithm. So $2b. Okay, and then we have a cost factor, so the 10. All right, and now this is the how many times it gets this. So by default it does 10 rounds. Okay, and then the salt. Okay, so salt is now random, and it is dependent on the type of key that you pass in. So there is a secret that you pass in, and it will be encrypted and checked if it matches the salt. So it will find this out, and then this is your password. So just in case you are wondering how this, we are using dollar and dollar over here to separate stuff. Well, over here we use a secret key to separate stuff, because if we use a dollar over here now to separate thing, well, that will cause like anybody will come to know that okay, this is the salt. Okay, chalo. So now that this is being done over here, and how and bcrypt works, it you understood hopefully now. Okay, so what we can do is now we can use this to encrypt our password and save it inside database. So how we install it is, we say npm install bcrypt. Okay, so yeah, let's just close all these extra tabs and go back over here, and we can say, first of all, we need to install bcrypt. All right, so I will say, let's just keep this small. Okay, now we can say const salt. All right, equals to await. Okay, and then we can say bcrypt dot salt, and then uh, you don't have to do much after this. Now you can always pass in options over here, like we had found inside the npm package, but for now I don't want to do that. Okay, and what instead we can do is we can use this salt to encrypt our password. So now I will say this dot password. So your this is this object. Okay, and then we are going ahead and accessing our this password object over here. So I will say this dot password equals to await bcrypt dot hash. Okay, so this is where all the encryption happens, and then you pass in what do you want to hash. So you say this dot password, and then you can say salt. Okay, chalo. So now whenever we try and go ahead, yeah, we need to say async over here as well. So we'll say async. Okay, and yeah, it works. And whenever before saving our user, we should get uh, our password encrypted. All right, so let me just close all this useless stuff over here and go back to my postman, and let's just try in. Now if I try and save this, we don't get anything. Why is that happening? Okay, so if we go to our user controller, hmm, okay, so we are getting a proper 200 request. Hmm, I don't think there should be any problem right now, but yeah, it is coming in here. It is also coming in here. And what about the request dot body? We are supposed to get it request dot body. Let's just try and send it. Okay, so it comes here. Now we are getting something that is troubling us over here. So, mm, well, it is not console logging this for us right now. Let's just try and restart our server. So, okay, so for some reason it is not at all coming over here. Now, what could be the, okay, it is still coming over here, but something is happening over here. So we are saying user schema dot pre, and then we have a save. Okay, and then we are also saying that it is an asynchronous function, and then the function has an object next, and we are passing that next, so it should come out of this function as well. And then consult equals to await bcrypt dot gen salt. So what is the problem? Well, you see, we have not in encrypt. Hopefully it works now. You see, any problem that comes over here, you have to solve it manually, because for some reason mongoose does not handle it until and unless it is some syntax error or something like that. Well, let's see. Yep, it got saved, and at this time our password did get encrypted as well. Chalo. So you see, it was test 123, and then it got encrypted over here. Fine. All right. Chalo. So that was our pre-hook. I would like to show you there is one more hook. We can say user schema dot post. All right, and then after saving, uh, we will use another function over here. Okay, and then we'll say now, as soon as this is also done, now this is a post hook. So after our user is saved or anything, we are doing something over here. Chalo. Well, for now, we are not going to do with anything at the post part. because we don't have that huge of a database, nor can I right now think of anything where we would like to use the post. Okay, chalo, still, even if we try and send it and it says that titles have already taken, it should say, okay, so it does not say anything right now for us to, yeah, because we are not saving in anything. So if I try and do this now, reason we are not saving anything is because there was an error. So if I try and send this now, we have a new user, and over here it said a new user was added as well. Chalo, so we'll keep this for now, and what we'll do is we'll remove the extra console logs that we had. Okay, chalo, so we'll remove this as well. So let me just close this guy. Okay, and now that we have handled this, well, we have this as well. Chalo, so chalo, so now what you would like to do, we have handle user login here, right? So let's just do this as well. How much time do we have for the same? Okay, we are already out of time, so that is what takes time over here. Creating one module takes a lots of time. Okay, by the way, for login also, you see, instead of handling our user login right now over here only, we can create a function, and let's just close all these extra routes that are over here. Hmm. You see, unlike these functions, which are pre and post functions, we can create some static functions to hide how you are doing some stuff. So, you see, whenever you are trying to log in, you don't want the developer to, or you want to do whatever for any reason, you can create a function specifically for the user. So, what we'll do is we will create a login function over here. Chalo. So we'll say user schema, all right, dot statics. Fine. So statics refers to functions that should not be fired as soon as required. Only when called they will be fired. Okay. So we'll create the name of the function will be login. Okay. And let's say that it will be an asynchronous function because we will be using bcrypt as well for the very same reason. Okay, and then we will say function, so it will take in two parameters, that is email and then password. Okay, so we'll say const user equals to await. All right, now even though we are calling it over here, we have the user object for our use right now as well. So we can say user equals to user dot find one. Okay, so now we have this, and over here now what you can do is pass in some object. So right now we want to use find the user with the email that we are passing in here. So if it has a user, we will say if user uh, if we have a user right now, we will say if there is a user, we will say const auth. Okay, so right now, uh, I hope that it works now. Fine. So we'll say const auth equals to await bcrypt. Okay, so bcrypt dot compare sync. Now what compare sync, it is an asynchronous function. We can say compare as well, given that you do not use an await over here. Okay, so we can say compare sync. Okay, for now we are going to say compare only over here, and then we'll say we want to compare the password with our user dot password. Okay, so now we will have one more condition checking if that auth is there, because this over here returns as a true or false. So if auth is false, we won't be running this block. Instead, we will be saying fine, it's good. We will say return user. Okay, well, what if we don't have that? We don't have the auth is false. We can now say throw error over here, and then we can say user not found. Fine. So instead of saying user not found, we will come over here and we will say incorrect details. Okay, because right now we are working with if user, because if there is a user, which means that the past problem was with authentication. Okay, chalo. So we have one more thing, and over here, if we don't have a user, we can now throw another error right here. We can saying throw error saying that in uh, invalid user. Okay, now this causes a security risk right now. The issue with being that the hacker will know whether there is a proper user present or not. So he will know that okay, the email ID is invalid and his password is wrong. Then he can just uh, use the brute force the password or anything he would like to do with that. Okay, and yeah, we do have stuff like allowing user to enter or invite password only 5 times before he resets our his or her password. And we also have OTP based logged in and all that stuff, but for now we are doing basic logins over here. Chalo. So now that we have our login method or function that we have created over here, I would like to use it over here. Okay, so what we'll do is, instead of doing this right now, given that we have already done a lot for the day, we will do it tomorrow. Okay, so hopefully you guys understood how we were encrypting our user and how we were working with it. Okay, so and apart from just that, how we also created a static function of login, which we'll use later on over here. So yeah, that's it for the day. We can stop. It is already 6 o'clock for us. And yeah, if you guys have any doubts, please ask, else we can drop this call for now.